When were the binoculars invented? Who invented the binoculars? Can we say telescope and binoculars are distant relatives? As you know, a binocular is a collection of two telescopes side by side and can be treated similarly to a telescope. After all, it is a device that brings us far and near in binoculars. It shows us the enemy in a war. Maybe a distant lake can bring us closer. Dear viewers, we would be very pleased if you subscribe, for developing of our channel. It took years for glass to be shaped into a lens for the first telescope. Scientist Galileo Galilei was introduced to astronomy through the telescope. He was the first to see craters on the moon, discovered sunspots, the 4 moons around Jupiter, and the ring surrounding Saturn. The telescope dealt with a limited magnification as well as a narrow field of focus. The binocular, which is the invention of the Italian astronomer and physicist Galileo, is called the Galilei binoculars after its inventor, and consists of 2 lenses, far and near. At first, it was thought that its use in the military and maritime could be useful. Binoculars with a narrow field of view and a low magnification are used today in matches, horse races and theaters. It is a small, easily portable tool. Hans Lippershey, a veteran eyeglass maker from the Netherlands, was not the first to assemble a device such as a telescope, but was credited with the invention as he was the first to widely introduce the new device. Later, Sir Isaac Newton announced a new telescope design in which a curved mirror is used to receive light, and reflect it back to a focal point instead of glass lenses. This reflector telescope designed by Newton, led to other telescope concepts being used to magnify objects. It was in the presence of telescopes that binoculars were eventually developed. Then it became a binocular telescope that combined 2 small prismatic telescopes. This was when Hans Lippershey requested a patent for the binoculars from an authority that had never seen a telescope before, which would allow him to have exclusive manufacturing rights to his instruments in 1608. Lippershey unveiled the first binoculars on December 8, 1608, and later, after it passed scrutiny, 2 more were created, using optics made from quartz crystals. Glass lenses and Galilean optics were made at the head of the binoculars. These optics were named after Galileo Galilei for his advances in early telescopes. Galilean binoculars had an inverted lens and a curved lens, or mirror, that picked up light from the focus object when the light rays were looked at, and focused to produce the original image. While the elements in the binocular gave it the ability to produce right-up images, one of its faults was that it created a narrow field of view, and had a low magnification. If we focus on the information about the invention of binoculars, Galileo Galilei was the first to introduce the telescope. Hans Lippershey, a veteran eyeglass maker from the Netherlands, is credited as being the first to mount a tool such as a telescope that caught the eye, and allowed users to use both eyes to see distant objects. Another scientist who made the invention widely known is Lippershey. A responsible bureaucrat who had mutually approved the patent on his invention, asked Lippershey to produce a telescope with 2 lenses and quartz optics. The binoculars were completed and approved in 1608. However, the patent rights were granted to Lippershey based on the fact that other people were already aware of the invention. Henry King, another authority on telescope history, said that quartz was more difficult to work with, and therefore the demand for crystal optics was, due to the poor quality of optical glasses at that time. During the Civil War, a Robert Tolles provided a supply of field goggles, which Henry Fitz and Alvin Clark each used to manufacture binoculars. In February 1865, Clark glass was tested, but only one device was completed by the end of the war. History says none of these binoculars currently exist. Then came Ignacio Porro with the prisms in the binoculars. The modern prism binoculars began in 1854 with an Italian patent for a prism setting system. In the 1860s, monoculars using the same prism configuration as modern Porro prism binoculars were produced in Paris, with work with a German optician, Jean Georges Hoffmann. Other manufacturers of poroprism optics include the companies Boulanger in 1859, Emile Busch in 1865, and Nachet in 1875. Some manufacturers have produced prism binoculars that are a combination of low-end eyeglasses and unrefined optical designs, resulting in manufacturing techniques. In an unsuccessful attempt, the survival of any of the binoculars is unknown. Ernst Tabbe, a German optical designer, exhibited a prism telescope at the Vienna Trade Fair in 1873. The invention was conceived using Poirot's ideas but without knowledge of previous work. Tabbe initially wanted to cement prisms, but put it on hold to develop the theoretical foundation of the modern microscope. He became associated with a glass master Otto Schott, and an instrument master Carl Zeiss, which resulted in a series of innovations in the German optics industry. According to the records of history, in 1894, first-quality binoculars with modern design were sold, and were the result of the optical designs created by Ernst Tabbe with the manufacturing capabilities that Carl Zeiss brought to the binocular industry. Dear viewers, these are the information we have prepared about the invention of binoculars. And we would be very pleased if you subscribe to support us. Thanks for watching. See you in another video.